In today's story, we also see how they test the limits of fair use and copyright in order to protect their IP. Of course, I'm talking about the ongoing Palworld lawsuit. After a busy 2024 full of legal action, we've just been given a bit of insight into Nintendo's intellectual property rights strategy, which includes things like copyright and patents, from none other than the company's patent attorney, who argues that IPs are essential for the games industry to have healthy growth. For a company that's nearly always worried about someone else reaching into their pocket and taking some of what's theirs, they seemingly never have a problem fronting the money for legal representation to go after fan-made projects. Hello fellow travelers and welcome to the Hard Light Network. In my last video on Nintendo, we saw how they reacted to a seemingly harmless fan-made project, but in today's video, we're covering a story about how they would respond to a genuine commercial threat. In today's story, we also see how they test the limits of fair use and copyright in order to protect their IP. Of course, I'm talking about the ongoing Palworld lawsuit. When Palworld was initially announced, many people saw it as a Wish.com knockoff of the famous Pokemon franchise. However, as time went on and the game released, it actually garnered a pretty sizable fanbase for its own. What initially showed itself to be nothing more than the baring of teeth from Nintendo eventually turned into a genuine legal battle over the legitimacy of the Palworld IP. Is it actually a valid creative endeavor, or is it merely a shameless knockoff and cash grab? And how does Nintendo feel about it? Throughout the course of this legal back and forth, we've seen many statements from Nintendo, but today we're going to be focusing on their specific view on patents and inspiration. But of course, before we get into that, guys, you know as well as I do, I've got to ask you to hit that like button if you like this video, subscribe so you do not miss out on any of the content that I've got coming up for you in the future, and also leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this issue. And as always, if you're looking for more ways to support the channel, there are super thanks and memberships options down below. Feel free to join the channel for access to exclusive perks and content that you can't get anywhere else. But without any further ado, let's get into this article. Today's reading comes to us from Games Radar and is entitled, "In the Shadow of the Palworld Lawsuit, Nintendo, Sega, and more Japanese gaming giants discuss patents and when taking too much inspiration becomes a problem." After a busy 2024 full of legal action, we've just been given a bit of insight into Nintendo's intellectual property rights strategy, which includes things like copyright and patents, from none other than the company's patent attorney, who argues that IPs are essential for the games industry to have healthy growth. As reported by Japanese site GameWatch and translated by Automaton, this comes from a conference about, quote, the importance of intellectual property rights in the gaming industry at Tokyo Sports Festa 2025, which saw speakers from Sega, Konami, Nintendo, and more weigh in on the topic. Nintendo's perspective is particularly interesting, considering how many headlines it made last year with its legal antics, from filing a lawsuit against a streamer for allegedly streaming leaked games, to the patent infringement lawsuit filed against Palworld developer Pocket Pair. According to Nintendo patent attorney Koji Nishiura, who also serves as Deputy General Manager of Nintendo's Intellectual Property Department, it sounds like the company is thorough with the variety of IP rights it seeks to acquire, so it has more ways to protect its brand. Nishiura explains that different forms of IP rights, like trademarks, patents, and design rights, can all offer their own scope of legal protection. Therefore, by Nintendo seeking to acquire a variety of them, it is a more multifaceted way to protect the brand and business. Sega offers a slightly different perspective, with Kikuo Masumoto, the head of the company's corporate development HQ, explaining that it's absolutely fine for game creators to build off each other's ideas, with the games industry itself literally being built from people doing so. With that said, there's a limit to how much someone can imitate someone or something else before it goes a bit too far. At which point, Sega steps in. Even so, when it comes to patents, Masumoto explains that the company doesn't file them to make sure no one else can use its technology, as they allow other companies to use them if they're willing to apply for a license to do so, and splash some cash too. The general manager of Konami's legal department, Shunsuke Murase, adds on to this point, explaining that licensing game mechanics and technology helps recuperate investment. That's bound to be increasingly more important as games become more expensive to make. All in all, perhaps it's unsurprising that Nishira argues that IP rights are essential for the games industry to develop in a healthy way. However, as Automaton points out, since IP rights are territorial, all of the comments from the conference should be considered with Japan specifically in mind. Things won't necessarily be the same across the world. That's going to do it for the written article, but as you guys well know, I've definitely got a few comments of my own, specifically about the IP rights protecting the flourishing of the video games industry. In my opinion, there should honestly be some sort of saying coined about how the most serious people are spewing the most bullcrap. While I can certainly empathize with wanting to protect your original ideas and maintain ownership over your IPs, the idea that bogging down video games with copyrights and patents is beneficial to the games industry at large is ridiculous on its face. We actually saw a similar argument years ago when PUBG's developers tried to patent Battle Royale style gameplay because they thought Fortnite and other developers were copying their game too much. Anyone who has watched my videos over the last few months knows that I have no shortage of distaste for the live service slop that has been inspired by the commercial success of Fortnite. Even so, it's impossible to argue that their commercial success isn't greater than that of PUBG's. It would also be ridiculous to argue that PUBG attempting to shut down Fortnite because of the Battle Royale style gameplay was anything more than an attempt to protect their commercial investment. And it certainly wasn't meant to benefit or encourage a healthy gaming industry. And to that point, Konami's statement about recuperating investments was definitely a much more honest statement. To be quite honest with you guys, I genuinely don't believe for 1 second that the existence of Palworld is going to drastically affect the profitability of Nintendo's newest Pokemon Legends project. Nintendo has some absolutely wild ideas about what could potentially affect their bottom line. Not only are they worried about competition from Temu tier games like Palworld, but they're also worried about competition from their own retro titles. For a company that's nearly always worried about someone else reaching into their pocket and taking some of what's theirs, they seemingly never have a problem fronting the money for legal representation to go after fan-made projects. If you ask me and many other gamers, the rising costs of modern games has less to do with how, quote, difficult it is to make games, and more so about paying 20 people to work on fonts for the game. When you're paying a team of 40 graphic designers to put a twinkle in Mario's eye, it doesn't really seem that difficult to figure out where all the profits are going to. But for whatever reason, to the corporate phantoms possessing the bloated corpses of these once great companies, it seems like an easier route to the money is just filing a patent and suing someone else to get it. I mean, why give the fan base what they want by re-releasing old retro titles on your current hardware or creating new and inspired products when you can spend an entire calendar year suing people for every dime you can get out of the legal system? Just to be clear, I'm not arguing that these companies shouldn't be allowed to protect their IPs. I'm simply saying that it's clear to see from everyone in the room where this problem is coming from. Gamers don't want a marketplace full of soulless, superficial copycats. We want genuinely unique and creative titles. However, it's clear that companies like Sony and Nintendo aren't doing that. Rather, they are simply shoring up their supremacy in the game development and publishing spaces. At the end of the day, I feel like a lot of the responsibility falls to us gamers and customers of these companies to put our foot down and actually vote with our dollars as to what we want to see from these companies. Palworld deserved a chance to compete in the marketplace and either succeed or fail on its own merit. And its commercial success shows that Nintendo doesn't have a monopoly on providing gamers what they actually want in games. Just to cap off this video, I believe that is a much more scary point for Nintendo, and that might be at the root of this lawsuit. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who has watched up to this point. I really appreciate all you guys for checking out the video and watching all the way through. If you liked the video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the content that I've got coming up for you guys in the future. Also, please do leave a comment with your thoughts down below. There's no reason why the, quote, health of the industry should be dictated by the developers and publishers. Ultimately, I believe that falls to us as gamers to decide. Whether this medium survives into the future or not is up to us and our efforts to preserve these experiences for future generations. If any of these companies could copy another game and recreate its success, they would do it in a heartbeat, and it has nothing to do with creativity or the health of the industry. As always, the only people concerned about those things are the fans, the people who actually have to play this slop that they continue to push on us. But of course, there's much more work to be done, so as always, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, and until next time, love you guys, safe travels.